Welcome to the Hazard Class Podcast. This is the podcast where I ask my stupid questions to some of the smartest people in and around the world of emergency services. My guest this week is a retired battalion chief from the Atlanta Fire Department who served nearly 40 years in the fire service before retiring in 2021. He is a chief elder of the Georgia Smoke Divers program. In 2023, he became the editor-in-chief of Fire Engineering magazine, and he is the man at the helm of the largest fire department conference in the world, FDIC, which he has been a contributor to for over 25 years. My guest this week, Mr. David Rhodes. Awesome. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, man. How's it going?
It's going real well. How are you?
Good. Doing well. Getting ready for the holidays.
Oh, yeah. Gearing up. All right. So as it goes every week, we're going to open up the show with the Wheel of Stupid Questions. This is just a reminder that asking questions is good. Even if they're stupid, if you point them at the right people, you can get some pretty smart answers. All right. Let's get into it. So we actually have a wheel. We're actually going to give it a spin. We're going to see what it lands on today. See how dumb it gets. Okay, Mr. David Rhodes, what is the largest animal you believe you could fight with your bare hands?
Ooh. Probably a turtle.
A turtle. I would hope so.
I think I
after
could
40
grab
years
it
in
in
the fire service. Yeah, after 40 years in the fire service, I would hope you could take a turtle.
I've seen some big ones. I think I could grab them in the right spot though.
Yeah, I don't know. The snapping turtles, man, they're pretty sketchy.
You just gotta know your hand placement and maneuverability.
Yeah. You gotta stay on your toes.
Yeah.
All right. I won't waste any more of your time. Let's do this. So let's talk about the early days. Obviously, you served almost 40 years in the fire service. Why the fire service? How'd you get into it?
After high school, I was kind of trying to decide what to do. I was working for a land surveyor at the time, and the fire chief from the local area there in Conyers came in the office to get some work done, and we started talking, and I'd considered maybe going to EMT or paramedic school. I just talked to him a little bit about that, and he said that they offered that as that was part of the training that you got when you joined the fire department. They were one of the first departments in Georgia to do that. And so I kind of signed up with that in mind. And that weekend, I went by to sign up as a volunteer and then put my application in for full time. And they took me to a live burn. And as soon as that live burn was over, I was like, okay, I don't care anything about paramedic or EMT. I'm going to the fire department, which I still ended up getting my EMT because we had to. And but I was hooked immediately, and it was a great little department. So it was a good start. So
you had no family ties to the fire service at all?
No, I had a grandfather that was a police chief in a small suburban city of right outside of Atlanta, but other than that, no ties at all.
So going back to the beginning, do you remember the first fire you ever went to, an actual house fire?
No, I just remember that training fire because it was we got inside on I think it was like the second rotation, and it flashed over. It was tall. It was an old farmhouse with the old pine paneling, and all that pine varnish and stuff pine sap was coming out, and it actually flashed over. Thank goodness it was really tall ceilings, and we hit the deck, and the guy that was in front of me had the nozzle, and he panicked. He ended up getting burned. Him and the instructor wrestled for the nozzle for a couple of seconds. Instructor got it, opened it up, put the fire out, and then told me to get him out. And this guy probably weighed 300 pounds, and I probably weighed 130. And so that was my very first ever experience having on an air pack, turnout gear, or whatever. And I mustered 2 other guys to help me get this guy out. And from that point on, it was like, man, this is it. Of course, I thought I was going to die for a couple seconds, but after that.
Man, talk about jumping into the deep end right off the bat. Holy
I guess
cow.
that was so eventful that my first fire after that, I don't remember.
Probably a little disappointing after that burn, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's probably food on the stove or something.
Yeah. So to walk me through the progression of your career in Atlanta.
So I went to Atlanta after the little department I was with consolidated with the county, and I was there for about a year. Then I went to Atlanta in 92 and got hired early for a recruit class that didn't start until November, I believe. So I got hired in January, and I did various jobs. The fire chief found out that I had already been a firefighter for, I guess, about seven or 8 years at that point. And he asked me if I'd come work in his office to help with a couple of projects. And I did. And we had a great relationship. So I was basically serving as the aide to the chief, while the lieutenant, who was actually his aide, was assigned to computerize the fire department. And that was back in 92. There was no station computers or anything at that point. So went to recruit school, got out, went to a single engine house in southwest of the city. And I was there for about 6 months, and the fire chief asked me to come back to actually be his aide. So I went and did that for about 2 years. And then I went to Station 2 right before the Olympics were in Atlanta, and I made driver there. And we had a tiller, an engine, and then we called them a medcom. It was a paramedic, two-person paramedic unit that ran medical calls and medical command type stuff. So it was a great house. I was there until I made lieutenant, and I also became union president during that time in 98. And so I was not very popular with the administration then. So I got promoted to lieutenant and sent to a 40-hour week in inspections. And I was there for almost 3 years, and promoted out as a captain, and went to another single engine in the northwest part of the city, where I was there, and then I made battalion chief a couple of years after that. Then I bounced to every battalion. The only battalions I didn't go to were the 4th Battalion and the airport. So I was at various shifts at the other battalions, and did a couple of years as a special ops chief.
So along there, you obviously got heavily involved in training. So when did that start, and how did you really get deep in the weeds of training?
So that really started at the 1st Department in Conyers, because it was I think we had about 20 people total paid, and then we had probably 10 volunteers that were left over from before it was a paid department. And everyone there was an instructor for the state, and all of the officers were. And I got hooked up with them. Obviously, it was kind of like a great environment. They were 100% with any training you wanted to do. If you wanted to go take a class, you just signed up, and it was an automatic yes, no matter what the staffing level was. they let you go to class and you weren't expected to come back that afternoon or anything. You just were off. So got heavily involved with the State Academy through those guys. And then only a year on the job, I went to Georgia Smoke Divers. And that's when I met the group of some of the hardest charging instructors there were. And just started going. Pretty much every weekend would be somewhere with the State Academy doing a live burn, acquired structures, and hanging out with a really, competent and great group of mentors to lead me on that path. And that just held true for my whole career. If it wasn't for that initial start with that department, I don't know what would have happened, but they definitely set me on the right path.
So talk to me about the smoke divers. I know they kind of fell away for a few years. Then there was kind of this resurgence where you kind of brought them back from the grave, and now it's kind of thriving. Talk me through that process.
Yeah. So we were affiliated with the Georgia Fire Academy from its inception in '78, and then around '94 there was a new administration that they didn't love the program. It was different than the other programs. It wasn't an automatic pass, and there were standards. So they started interfering in the delivery of the program, and we had always held true that you had to complete the program in order to be an instructor, and they wanted to insert some of their people in certain parts of the class. And anyway, we felt that it was being compromised. They also implemented a no turn down policy for applicants. And so even though the class was designed for like 35, 40 people, if 70 signed up, we had to take 70, and we just could not maintain the quality of the class. So we shut the program down versus having it minimized by that administration and compromising the quality of it. And we always had the intent of bringing it back. Scott Millsap, who was in charge of it at the time, we met off and on for years, working on updates to the program and trying to find a different place to host it instead of the academy. And then perfect storm, chain of events. The academy got a new director that wanted it back and asked for a meeting with us. Unfortunately, Scott had passed away by that time, and we still had everything ready to go. So we developed a plan, and we were able to go back as a fire academy class in 2005. I think we held the first class. It was like the week of Halloween. And we stayed there for quite a while. And then their burn building got condemned, which government agency. So it took a few years to get it replaced. And we ended up going to Dalton, Georgia, who welcomed us with open arms. And we bounced back and forth a couple of times, but ultimately decided just to go out on our own without the restrictions. And there's some good laws on the books in Georgia, but one of them is that a Georgia firefighter cannot be charged a fee for any training that takes place at the academy. And with the all volunteer group that we have logistics cost. The guys are paying for their own rooms and everything. And so when we went away from the academy, we were able to charge a fee for the training, and none of the instructors get paid all the way up top, all the way to the bottom, but we are able to cover some logistical costs. Like we're able to cover some instructors' rooms, and obviously we feed everybody. So it's worked out well at Dalton. It's a smaller venue, but we haven't missed a beat, and the program's grown to where we're pretty close to having somebody in every state that's been through the program. And then the program has expanded to where we have we've gotten Indiana and Oklahoma up and running on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we got a couple more in the works.
That's awesome. So along the way, you also got into writing. Obviously, you've written, like, I can't even, do you have any idea how many articles you've written and published over the years?
No.
A lot. Right?
Yeah.
So were you into writing, or did you become into writing based on, trying to get your teaching out?
Actually, I was kind of inspired to write a little bit more on the satire side from a guy at my original department. I actually just wrote about this. I think it was in the October editorial. He was a little more of an intellect type than the rest of us there, and he was always in school, and he was working to become a counselor, and so he was working on his degree. And when we were going through the consolidation, there was some rough times. You're losing your identity. We were losing money. And so we started a little underground newsletter that he asked me to help him do. And, we wrote some funny stories, and it made the guys laugh. And I saw, the joy that it brought and how it could diffuse a lot of bad stuff that was going on. So that kind of gave me the writing bug. But it wasn't until I was union president and we had the big mill fire and the dramatic helicopter rescue where Matt Mosley hung off of a rope from a helicopter and rescued this guy off a tower crane. It made national news. All the networks cut live. It was before social media, so it was true. Like every network in the United States cut live to this rescue.
Wow!
And he was an overnight, sensation with the Today Show wanting to do interviews. I was union president at the time, and very bad relationship with the mayor. We're in a right to work state, but the mayor would not even acknowledge a letter from us at the time. And it was a Democratic mayor, so it was kind of cool. They were all cool with the other unions, but they didn't care for the fire union or the police union. It was as long as you were outside, one of the trades, they were good with you. But so we got a lot of headlines because we had a lot of problems. We had apparatus that were breaking down, breathing apparatus that were malfunctioning, guys were getting hurt, and we were fighting all these battles and had been for a couple of years. But that incident brought them all to the headline, and suddenly the mayor wanted to meet with us, and we got all of these things fixed, and it was just a phenomenal chain of events that happened over the course of a couple of months. And so we got all new fire trucks, we got all new breathing apparatus, and this is a big department. So, the commitment to buy all new fire trucks was pretty amazing. And so within two or 3 years, we had replaced all engines and ladders,
Wow.
So,
holy cow.
And I got asked, I was already working at FDIC. I was an instructor, teaching special ops stuff, confined space, rope rescue. And the editor was really good friends with Scott Millsap, who was, the same guy that ran the Georgia Smoke Divers. And he had done the keynote address the year that rescue actually happened, right before it happened. And then I had met the editor, which was Bill Manning, through Scott, and Bill called me and asked me if I'd write an article about the fire and the rescue. So I actually had 2 articles published in the magazine in the same edition. So that was my first dabble at actual getting something published, and then I just became a regular contributor after that, and ended up running the hands-on training at FDIC, and that whole relationship just grew. Bill left, and then Bobby came in. I guess it's been probably 20 years ago now. So I worked about 5 years 5 or 6 years with Bill Manning, and then the rest of the time with Bobby Allen.
So when you look back at kind of like that catalog of things you've published over the years, are there any articles that you're particularly proud of that you worked on that come to mind?
Yeah, I think the Size Up for Search was a really good one that opened some eyes. Is that you didn't just go in and do a right hand or left hand search through the front door. Obviously, later on, the Science for Dummies series was 5 articles, and that was in the height or the beginning of a lot of the UL studies and publications, and everybody was freaking out and going nuts. And I just tried to make it more common sense that everybody understood than a technical report or whatever. So we got a lot of good feedback on those. I did that whole series for a couple of years, the Hump Day SOS. And then, of course, probably the most popular article of all was the T-shirt management one that I ultimately they attempted to fire me over. And, well, they actually did fire me, but it didn't work out. I ended up back after a 45-day paid vacation. So that's the most popular. Now, a lot of those other articles I wrote were way before social media and stuff. So that one was after social media, so it got a lot of passed around, and it was interesting. I actually went to a couple departments, and I remember going to Wichita for some training, and went to the bathroom, and they had it taped up, like a sports bar over the urinal. So
a moment of pride for you, maybe?
Yeah, it was good. I was like, I finally made it. I'm in the bathroom.
You touched on it a little bit earlier. Talk to me about the early days at FDIC. Obviously, it's expanded to being the largest, fire department conference in the world. But what was it like 25 years ago?
So the first time I ever attended was in Cincinnati, and I just went as a firefighter. I think it was around 89 or 90. And, I was overwhelmed by the size of it then, and it was nothing compared to now. And then within a couple of years, I was helping out, teaching a class. I was supposed to be an instructor at the very first hands-on training, which it was called Hot Tuesday. And it was all held in the parking lot of the RCA Dome, which is now where Lucas Oil Stadium is. And I want to say there were 5 groups that were doing stuff. Chant was doing ground ladders. Lasky, I think, was doing some stuff. And then Scott had his company, and we were doing some rope anchors and stuff, but it was very simple. I ended up getting really sick that week and ended up not being able to go. So I started actually teaching in the second year of Hot. And by that time, they had expanded it to Hot Monday and Tuesday, and we were at a local fire academy. So I taught rope and confined space probably 3 or 4 years, and then Scott got asked to head up all of the Hot, and he asked me if I'd help him with logistics, which I had done for a couple of the classes one of the years that I couldn't make it for the whole time. And so I didn't really know that much about logistics, but I said yeah. And before he actually was able to be in charge his first time, he passed away from cancer. And so then it defaulted to a team of folks, which was John O'Connell, Mike Nasta, Rick Fritz, Brent Hollander, and myself Brent was safety, and then I was logistics. And then we kept that team together for several years, doing all of the Hot training. And then we started doing FDIC East and FDIC West. So we were doing 3 shows a year, packing up the equipment cache and hauling it all across the country. So it got really busy. the East and West shows went away and we got back to just doing the indie show. But we've grown from, like I said, those 5 or 6 groups in the parking lot to there have been a couple of years where we've had 25 different hot classes, over a 2-day span. And then this year will be the first year we're actually expanding hot outside of Monday, Tuesday. We will have some hot classes and hot workshops available Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday as well. So, yeah, it's grown.
So for people that are maybe familiar with just how big FDIC is, can you give me like some numbers on scale? Like how many vendors are there? How many attendees? Like some people might just not know how humongous it really is. Yeah,
I think there's right around 900 exhibitors, and there's like 36,000 attendees.
Wow. And this is over the course of how many days?
It's 5 days.
5 days.
Yes, Monday. Well, 6 days, Monday through Saturday, half a day Saturday.
And how many courses will be offered in that period of time?
About 300.
Holy crap.
Yeah, we'll have about 30 hot workshops, about 60 4-hour workshops, and then about 200 classrooms. And then that doesn't count. There's a lot of training we're doing now that's free just for signing up with the exhibitors. We've built, this will be the second year we built a training yard inside the Lucas Oil Stadium. So we'll have a 3 or 4 story tower. We'll have a 3-story burn building. We'll have extrication vehicles, just all types of stuff in an area designated for training. And like the guys from Elkhart, they come in and do their brass tacks and hard facts there on the show floor. So it's pretty cool. Now it's a digital burn building with theatrical smoke and digital fire panels. So it's not live fire or anything like that, but it is some good reps, and there's a lot of good training that happens, hourly in that drill yard. So I don't even know what the number is when we count all those. So
wow. I was reading an article and gearing up with this, and it talked about FDIC's commitment to keeping vendor-led classes and instructor-led classes separate. I know that as I do the conference circuit around the country, oftentimes they're muddled together, and then you go expecting to get a course and you end up getting a sales pitch. And I think that's a really cool thing. Can you kind of talk about that decision to keep those two things separate?
Yeah, and that's always been the case. Our editorial team is basically Diane Rothschild, myself, it was Bobby, and Brent Hollander and Mike Champo. We go through We take the proposals and we go through each one and, try to develop a conference that touches all bases. Like there's some leadership, there's some engine company, there's some truck company, there's technical rescue, there's hazmat, there's, anything that we face, we try to balance it out with the audience. And then we go through the hot classes in the same way there. There's a lot of repeat because a lot of people want that same class over and over, and I guess about 50 to 60% of the people coming are new attendees to the hot program. So the ones that are filling up, we tend to keep. We try to do a couple new ones every year, and our new hot workshop model, which is a combo of an hour or 2 hours of classroom followed by 2 hours of hands-on somewhere on site there, kind of like the original Hot Tuesday, has been very popular. So we don't want to mix. We do have sponsors, and the sponsors are able to provide equipment for the class, but they're not allowed to do any of the instructing. Part of the reason for building the drill yard was because we realized that there is a value from exhibitor-led education. but we didn't want to mix the two. As long as you're going into an exhibitor-led class, and you know that up front, it's fine. And what we actually found was the exhibitors who actually taught really great classes, and it was not a sales pitch. I think they have learned over the years too that the best way to sell their product is actually just demonstration and training on it. They don't have to tell you that it's the best one and why the other one isn't and whatever. Is like it proves itself by training. But we got a lot of good feedback on that. I really wanted to develop that area to have more vendor-led education, because there are a lot of experts in the industry that we need to hear from. But we keep the education side for the hot workshops, the 4-hour workshops, and for the classroom sessions, totally separate.
So talking about curating training and whatnot, obviously FDIC has garnered some of the most iconic, fire department lectures in history, from Andy Fredericks to Ray McCormick, and the list goes on and on. What is the process like of selecting those keynotes, and how much pressure are you feeling to continue to allow these voices to have that stage? Obviously, it's the biggest stage in fire instruction.
Yeah, that's my primary responsibility, is using the platform, whether it's magazine articles, whether it's FDIC teaching a class or doing a keynote. As my job is to open that platform up to voices that need to be heard. And sometimes it's somebody who is not as popular maybe as somebody else, but they have a good message. But usually once they hit that stage, then they really take off as far as their presence as a respected person in the industry, for sure. And all of them are already that before they come. They just may not be known, to the audience. So and we got the man, the myth, the legend himself this year, Mike Champo, who just retired from FDNY, has never keynoted FDIC, even though he's been there as long as I have, and so he'll be the featured Wednesday keynoter this year.
That's great. So as we kind of look to wrap, I just want to get a little bit deeper. So after 40 plus years working in and around the fire service, what motivates you to keep going? Why stay in as long as you have, and what motivates you to keep, driving training forward?
It's just always about making it better, making a difference, and not just in the fire service itself, but in the lives of the firefighters and the families of the firefighters. Just in enhancing their life as individuals, showing them paths to be contributors, to be servant leaders, and seeing them grow. And I guess at a certain point, obviously, there was at one point there was nothing better than being on the nozzle, and then it kind of went to being the one searching. There was nothing better than being the one searching and opening up, and then it went to there's nothing better than being in command of a good fire. And then now it's good to watch and see people that you've trained or influenced go into those positions and do well and get promoted and pass it along to the next generation. So I'll be here for a while.
Good. Well, I appreciate what you've done and what you're continuing to do for the fire service. The fire service as a whole is indebted to you for the work you've done over the years in your career. Let the people that are listening know where they can find you, where they can, get more information about FDIC and the magazine. Yeah,
absolutely. Fireengineering.com, FDIC.com. My email is david.rhodes, RHODES, @clarionevents.com. And always glad to speak to anybody and try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate what you're doing for the fire service.
All right, man. Thanks, Jake.
Of course.